Hi everyone, my name is Katalin, and I read more than 52 books this year, and we're just gonna go through them, and I'll tell you what I liked and what I didn't like. I'm a little late to the party, but that's okay. Uh, you can still watch it. Yeah, so let's get into it. Okay, so basically I'm gonna go through it chronologically how I read them throughout the year 2023, and except if there's like a series that I read, because sometimes I read like one book of a series and a standalone, and I just kind of go back and forth. So if I have a series, I'll just put it in like one big chunk. But other than that, I'll go chronologically. One thing I do want to mention beforehand is when I looked through the authors that I read this year or in 2023, I realized a lot of them have expressed their support for Israel and against Palestine, which I don't want to support and I don't want to give them a platform really. So the problem is I do like a lot of their books. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you which ones of the ones that I read I know of, and I'm going to ask you if you, because of my recommendation, decide to read a book, please try to get it at a library or from a friend or get it online because everything's online nowadays. You can get it for free, and that way we don't give money to people that support genocide. Yeah, that's kind of the one thing that I want to say beforehand. Okay, so the first book that I read is Babel from R.F. Kuang. I've previously read The Poppy War, not the trilogy, just the first one, and I really liked it. And I might, I think, read the other two in the future. But yeah, this one came out, I think, a year ago, and I really wanted to read it because I liked The Poppy War so much. So I read it, and I have to say, R.F. Kuang put so much research and effort into writing this book. There's so much information about like languages, colonialism, Oxford, like in the olden times, all these things, and like she put so much work into this, and you can tell throughout the entire book how much work she put into this. She has like basically for each page, she has like annotations for a bunch of things, and it kind of takes you out of the reading flow, I would say, because you have to like keep checking like, oh, what did she mean by this, and like there's small things that she annotates, but it gives you a lot more in-depth information, and I think you should read them. It's just when you first see it, it's a little overwhelming. I have to say I'm a little jealous that I can't speak Mandarin or Cantonese because the main character speaks both these languages, and a lot of the book is based around languages and the power that language holds. So with my I can only do German, English, and like a little bit of French. So I could only get so far with like understanding everything thoroughly. But I mean, she explains every word that she puts in there that's in a different language. But it still, I think, would make the experience even better if you understood all the languages. But nonetheless, it's like a really cool experience, and I love like the magic system. I think it's really a cool idea that I hadn't seen before, so I really enjoyed that. Also, the characters are really like three-dimensional. I could relate to all of them basically. You understand all their decisions, and it's a really, yeah, I really enjoyed the book. So the next book I read is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and I love this book. So I know a lot of people love this book, and everybody says, "Oh, the writing style like is so nice." And I'm not a person that appreciates writing style as much, I would say. I appreciate good characters. I appreciate plot, like a good plot, like a character driven story. That's what I tend to like be drawn to in a book. And this book is definitely not that. Like the characters are pretty bland. The story is not mind blowing, I would say. But the writing is so good, and I never thought I would say this, but the writing makes it totally worth it. It's like you're like literally transported to this night circus. I love every I like it was so magical. I loved it so much. So I can really recommend it. Even if you think, oh, like writing style is not really something I'm drawn to, trust me, that will change once you read this book. Like for me, writing style, I only notice it if it's really bad or really good. And in this case, it's really good. So yeah, definitely give it a shot, I would say. The next one I read with my book club. We read Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmish, and I really enjoyed it. I feel like I enjoyed the first half more. So in my book club, what we do is we read the first half of a book, and then we meet and talk about it, and then we read the second half, and then talk about like the overall experience. And basically all of us were like, oh, the first half was like really good, and then after we read the entire book, we were like, oh, maybe this wasn't as great. Because I feel like she tried to wrap up everything perfectly and like put like a little bow on top. And sometimes life is not like that. I mean, most times life is not like that. So that's why I prefer the first half, which was very emotional. And then the second half just tried to, yeah, tie everything up so it works. But I didn't enjoy that as much. My favorite character is 630, which is the dog. And also they did like a TV adaptation, I think on Apple TV Plus. And that one's also really nice. And they changed some things I liked, some things I don't like. But 630, perfectly cast. I love him. He's so cute. My favorite character by far. The next one I read was Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare, which is the third book in the Last Hours series. I really enjoy Cassandra Clare's writing and all her series. Maybe not the Shadowhunter series, but everything after I really enjoyed. My favorite one is the Infernal Devices. And I had to say, like, the Last Hours, the first books, I thought, oh, this is gonna be like my new favorite book series from Cassandra Clare. But the last book kind of ruined that. So my favorite series will be The Infernal Devices from her. Anyway, so my favorite series by Cassandra Clare is still The Infernal Devices. This one, it's not. The first two are really, really good. The characters are great. The story is nice. And then the last one, it's like something is missing. There's someone that died that I don't think should have died. I think other people should have died. There's also not enough like emotional deaths, I would say. And like we move past the one person that dies like really fast. And it just wasn't, it didn't give me the same feeling, I have to say. And yeah, I love a lot of the characters. Matthias is my, is this, no, that's not his name. Matthew. Matthew is my favorite character. But I think, yeah, there's something was not how it's supposed to be. That's how the only way I can describe it. So sadly, that one was kind of a disappointment for me. Okay, so I don't know the English title for this one. I'm just gonna say it in German, and I'll put it in the video when I edit it, because I don't. It's Drei fast geniale Freunde auf dem Weg zum Ende der Welt, and the author is Jonas Jonasson. He's I think he's a Swede. Okay, I looked the name up. So it's The Prophet and the Idiot is the name of the book. And it's by Jonas Jonasson, who's a Swedish author. Also wrote The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared. I think that one's the one that most people know, and he keeps writing very similar style books, I would say. And this one's just like the other ones, I would say. It's very funny, lighthearted. Oh, Obama's in this one, and he talks to someone about like cheeses, which I loved. That was really funny. Yeah, but it's like a typical Jonas Jonasson book. If you like those types of book, like whimsical kind of stuff, definitely go for it. The next one that I read is so that one's a series. This is a duology. These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong. And it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but it plays in Shanghai, and it's about like gangs instead of the two different houses. So it's kind of like mafia style, I would say. And it's really fun. I love Shakespeare. I really enjoyed Romeo and Juliet when I read it in high school. I enjoy a lot of his other plays. So that was like a really nice retelling, I think. You get every scene from the original play, but with like a little bit of a spin on it, I would say. And the characters also have really cool names. You can like always tell which characters it is, and they sound kind of the same, but they're not the same. So it's like cool to figure out which character is which and how she like made the names work. Yeah, that one I think is really fun. I don't like the magic that happens in the story. I think I like the second book more. Also, if you're ever looking for Mercutio and Benvolio fanfiction, there you go. It's in there. So yeah, I'd say try it. I think it's a really nice retelling. The next book on the list is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Just want to let you know that she's one of the authors that is on the list that supports Israel. So if you don't want to support that, don't buy her books. But if you still want to read them, try getting them online somewhere or from your friends or get it secondhand or something. That way she doesn't get the money. So I have to say, I really enjoy her books. The first one I read by Taylor Jenkins Reid was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I really enjoyed, and then Daisy Jones and the Six is the second one that I read of her, and I really enjoy it. It's a story about this rock band in the 70s and how they formed the band and then also how they broke apart after a couple of years. And I love how it's told from different perspectives of the different band members, and then sometimes they contradict themselves if they tell a story, and you kind of have to figure out what the truth was. And we will never know. Some people believe this, some believe something else. But I think that's a really cool way to tell a story. And then also there's a reveal at the end, which makes you question everything they said even more, which is really cool, I think. Yeah, I really enjoyed all the characters. It's about the stories, like it's about love, it's about being a star in the 70s, like a rock star, drugs, addiction, friendship, female friendship and support. I think that's like a theme that she has in a lot of her books, which I really like and appreciate. So this was a really good one. They also have a series that came out on Prime, I think, which I enjoyed, and I like the songs, some of them. But the book is definitely better, so check out the book first. And yeah, I think this is a book for someone that like loves to analyze lyrics and like appreciates lyrics and songs a lot. Who like that's who I am. Kind of like I love when a song has really good lyrics that I can like relate to and like understand on like different levels. So if you're that kind of person, this is the book for you. The next one we read with my book club again, which is The Light We Carry by Michelle Obama. I actually never read her Becoming book, which I think I should. I think I would like it more than this one. This one was kind of a disappointment to me. It was like a self-help book type of vibe, but I don't remember any of the tips that she gave. I don't remember really anything from this book, I have to say. So that, yeah, it just wasn't for me. And I think I'd enjoy like her story in Becoming a lot more than this like random self-help book. So yeah, I would skip this one. Okay, now we have a series incoming, which is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I know this one's like hyped on TikTok a lot, and it's definitely YA, and it's fun. It's not like, yeah, it's definitely not up there with the best series I've ever read. I think it's a fun read. The love story triangle thing is okay. I think she picked the right one in the end, so that's why I like it. The third book is so bad. The entire conclusion to the series is so bad. I like when I read it, I was like, well, I listened to the audiobook, but that was horrible. I didn't like it. That's why I also didn't read like the new books that came out. So I only read the original three, which I think is enough. I think the second one I like the most, but yeah, I think it's like for YA readers. I think maybe I was too old for this. It was like fun, but not life changing. Now we have Normal People by Sally Rooney, and I know people love this, and I know people love the series, which I haven't seen yet. I think I might, but I hated this book. I think it was so boring. I think the characters were boring, but also so annoying, and I just didn't care about them at all. I didn't care what happened to them. So I think that's why I just was not invested in the story at all. I don't even remember what happened really. Like I remember the beginning of their relationship, but like later, I don't even know what happened. Maybe the series is better. I might watch it. I think people like that one more than the book. Um, yeah, but this kind of put me off like reading Sally Rooney books because I know people say this one's like a really good one, and I don't like it. I really don't. Okay, the next one is another Taylor Jenkins Reid book, so remember getting it online. This one's Malibu Rising, and I love this book. It's about a story of four siblings that live in Malibu, and the entire book is basically in the span of one day or like one, yeah, no, I think it's one complete day. And you kind of see like what happens. There's a little bit of flashback happening, but it's the main story takes place throughout this one day. And I love Nina Riva, which is one of the siblings, the oldest one, and I feel like I am her. I like relate to her so much in many aspects. Also, like she definitely has a much harder life than I do, but like her personality, I feel like I really understand. Um, and like how much she cares about her siblings and like she puts them before her and all these things. I think that's like a thing that I really liked about reading her. I also like the other siblings. Kit is also very fun, and also the two boys. Like I like the entire family, but Nina Riva is just close to my heart, and I love how her story ends in this book. Yeah, so this is a. I think this is my favorite book of hers. There's one other one that I'll get to later, that's like a close competitor. They're both like pretty equal, but I'll get to that when I talk about the other book. Next on, I read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Basically, I like want to read more classics because I grew up in Germany, so I read a lot of the German classics, which is like Metamorphosis by Kafka, and there's like Faust by Goethe. So like I read German classics, but I never read like English classics. So then 2 years ago, I started reading Dracula, and I did something that's called Dracula Daily, which is super fun. And I can definitely recommend it, where you get like a really small snippet of the book each day. And in Dracula, it's like as the story unfolds because it's written in like a kind of like a calendar or journal type of situation. So there's always like a date for each entry in the book. And so you get an email on that day that it says in the entry, and you can read that section that was in there for that day. And then you kind of like read the book as it unfolds in real life, which is kind of cool. So I did that in previous years, and then now I found that they do the same thing for Frankenstein, but because there's not really like an entry thing, you just get I think a chapter a week or something like that. But I really enjoyed it. I think I would have liked to read this in like a classroom setting to discuss it with other people because I kind of miss doing that. I think this book is like a really good one to discuss and like analyze different themes and characters and like compare them. So I didn't get to do that sadly. So that's what I would have liked. I think I like Dracula more when it comes to like classics, but this one's also a really good one. I think that one's more. This one is like really deep and makes you think more. Dracula is more fun and like a cool story. Okay, we're now entering my Dark Academia era. Well, it's two books and Babel that I also read. But I had like back to back. I read two Dark Academia books that people always like to compare because they're really similar stories. So I first read The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and I did not like it. I think the characters were not likable. I didn't care about any of them. And maybe the point was that they're not likable, but at least make me care about them, even if they're like not good people. I know you can do that because there's other books where this has happened, but this one I didn't care about the story at all. It was so boring. Nothing happened for like a really long time. Then something really weird happens, and you like try and understand what the hell is going on. The main character is so I don't even know how to describe it. He's so bland. I know nothing about him. He sleeps for so long throughout the book, You don't really get anything of his character. Yeah, no, I just didn't enjoy this one. But then on the other hand, we have If We Were Villains by ML Rio, and that one is like awesome. I love that book. It's about Shakespeare, which maybe influences my opinion because I really enjoy reading Shakespeare based things apparently. But basically, it's like this group of friends, and they all study like Shakespeare, and like they do plays of his, and they're different characters. In both stories, someone dies from their respective friend groups, and you try to figure out like how it happened. But I was so much more invested in the If We Were Villains story, like why. I mean, I kind of knew why he died, but I like how it happened basically, and like who was in on it, I guess. Um, so I think, yeah, I just cared way more about the characters. They were likable, or at least like I could understand them. And yeah, that's it. And also the main character was like relatable, and yeah, I could understand his decisions, and he didn't sleep the entire time, so that was something, you know? Yeah, so I think if you want to read Dark Academia, and you want to decide between those two books, I would definitely say read If We Were Villains. Do not read Donna Tartt. Coming to the main part of this video, I would say, um, the entire series of Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Just a disclaimer, she's also one of the authors that has made some statements about Israel, I think a couple of years ago, that are not great. She hasn't, I think, so far said anything this year, but that's also saying something. So, yeah, just I hope just keep that in mind. So basically, I read Throne of Glass, the entire series except Assassin's Blade and Tower of Dawn, a couple of years ago. I really loved it, and it's become one of like my favorite fantasy series ever. I know people love ACOTAR, and some people like Crescent City, but this like Throne of Glass is by far the superior series. It's the best she ever wrote, which is fascinating because it's the first one she ever wrote. So something happened with her writing, like it didn't get better. But yeah, like if you like ACOTAR, please read Throne of Glass because it's so much better. So I started with Assassin's Blade this time, because that was the one that I hadn't read before, and like, of course, it broke my heart. It's you know what's gonna happen, but still you're like, don't want it to happen. I think it's a really I like reading it first, but maybe like of course I already knew the entire story that was gonna unfold, but I like reading it first. Then of course I read Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, and I have to say those two are definitely like more YA vibes, and I understand why people stop reading the series after those two, or maybe after Air Fire, because they're like, what? Like, it's not as catching as later, I would say. But please, like, you need to continue. You need to come to Queen of Shadows, and then you'll be there. I personally like I enjoyed Throne of Glass. I think it's a fun read. I love Crown of Midnight. It's so much better than I remembered, to be honest. Like I gave it 4 stars. I think it was really good. Then Air of Fire, personally, that was always the one that I didn't like. I don't like Selena's story in that one for some reason. Like it annoys me. The only thing that brings me through that book every time is Manon. I love, or Manon, whatever you want to call her. I love her, like from the start. Bad bitch. Love her. So that's what kind of like brings me through Air Fire, and then you come to Queen of Shadows, and then like every book from there is a 5 star read for me. It's specifically Queen of Shadows, so I love that one. And then Kingdom of Ash is also amazing. I never read Tower of Dawn before, and I'm so glad I did. I have never been a Kale hater. I love him, and I'm a defender until I die. So I really enjoyed reading his book. I didn't like Nesrin and Sartak's story really, like it was really boring to me, but I love Kale and Irene. I think that one's really beautiful. So I'm glad I read this one finally. And then you read Kingdom of Ash, and yeah, I was destroyed. I cry every time. If you know, you know. Yeah, I just want to say like her characters in Throne of Glass, every single one I care about so much. There's like so many of them and they're all so good and you understand the motives of every single one, I feel like. And there's so many amazing like Manon, Aelin, such like the best two female characters ever written, in my opinion. I love them with all my heart. And I really think this series deserves so much more hype than ACOTAR does. So I hope, I think people are slowly like realizing that. And I know almost everyone that I know that read ACOTAR first and then Throne of Glass was like, wait, Throne of Glass is so much better. I did the other way around. So I always knew Throne of Glass is the superior series. Okay, next up we have Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, another like one of the authors that has expressed her support for Israel. So just so you know, so I watched the Netflix series Heartstopper, the first season, and I thought it was so cute. It's really nice, and that's why I read the book. I read the first four. I think there's five now, but I only read the first four this year, and I really enjoyed it. It's a really cute love story, and I think we deserve queer love stories that have like a happy ending and that don't end with one of them dying or like something dramatic happening. I think it's nice that we have like a happy gay love story here. It's also so easy to read. Like I read one of those books in less than an hour because it's just so fast. So yeah, I can definitely recommend it. I personally I like the first two the most, I would say, and then towards the end, I think the fourth one I didn't like as much because it's less about like their love story and more about mental health, which of course is like important. But I'm reading this book because I want like a cute love story. I don't want to have like I don't know want to get depressed because of this. So I think that's why I prefer the first books in the series. Yeah, and also I like the first season more than the second. The second is a little I don't know a little too sappy. I feel like the book wasn't like this. At least that's what I remember. But yeah, it's still cute. They deserve to be happy. Next up, we have Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I only read the first one because I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy the story. I think it was trying to do like a night circus thing, but then it didn't accomplish that because yeah, the characters weren't great. The story, not that great, and it didn't have that magic element of the night circus. So I decided to stop after the first one. The next one is another classic, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and I'm so happy I read this one. I think this is one of my new favorite classics, I would say. I really enjoyed it. I listened to it on Spotify on like they had like an audiobook version of it on Spotify. But that one I would not recommend because Dorian's voice, he's like voiced by someone really old and he sounds really weird. And I feel like Dorian should have like an attractive voice because that's who he is as a character, like an attractive person. So I feel like his voice should also embody that, which it didn't. So maybe read it or don't listen to that audiobook that I listened to. Anyways, it's a really cool story. I think like about beauty and like how we as a society see beauty. I think it's even like more relevant now than it was back then because of how many beautiful people we see on social media every day and like what we associate with them. And I think yeah, it's like it's really poignant at like what it's trying to tell us. And I really enjoy it. The only thing I didn't enjoy is chapter 11, where he talks about, I think, like the hobbies that he picks up and like all the things he tries. It's so much. And like, there's no information. There's so much information, but there's nothing important really. So I feel like you can just skip that chapter. Maybe there's something that people discuss in like class settings where they're like, oh, this is such a deep chapter, but I'm just like, no, I did not enjoy this chapter. Everything else was really great. Okay, you know I had to do it. Here we are. Fourth Wing and Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I know a lot of people have talked about it, positive or negative. Like, everybody basically has read it, I feel like. And I agree with what everybody basically has been saying. The first one is fun. It's like Divergent, but with dragons. The I think like she has a cool concept just like Divergent, but like now she realized, oh, she has to build like a whole world around it, and it's not really working out. In the second, you can tell that in the second book, which also came out so quickly after the first one was out. This is, yeah, as people have been saying, like fast fashion but with books, which you can tell like the quality is not there. So I hope we go back to slowly, like I am okay with waiting 2 or even 5 years. I've read George R. R. Martin. I'm still waiting for the last book. Um, but yeah, I'd rather do that than have like a bad quality book that I don't enjoy and then like it ruins the entire series basically. Because the first one was fun. Like I'm not there's still like the characters weren't great. The story, like yeah, it's not the best book I've ever read, but it's fun. And I think that's fine. But just don't, yeah, give me quality, you know? I prefer quality over quantity, I would say. Oh, also, she's also one of the authors on the list, just so you know. Next one, we have Emily Henry, the first Emily Henry book that I ever read, which is Book Lovers, because people told me that one was one of her best. And if it is, maybe I'm just not an Emily Henry person, but I didn't enjoy it that much. I like it was a fine love story, I think. I don't remember a lot. The characters were kind of bland, like not they didn't feel like real people to me, if that makes sense. And it was all very predictable, which okay, it's a love story, of course it's predictable, but also there's elements that shouldn't be predictable, and I think just everything, like I knew what was going to happen. So, yeah, that was not for me. I think I will try other Emily Henry books. Maybe you guys have recommendations of ones that you like more. I think people like Beach Read more, right? So maybe I'll try that one in the future. But this was not for me. Okay, the next one is very niche. Um, it's Immune by Philip Detmer. It's from the people that do like In a Nutshell, the YouTube series, which is actually like a German series primarily, I think, or that's how they started. Anyways, I read the book because I'm doing immunology in my studies right now. So it was like a good background knowledge kind of book to have. Well, and then I can like delve deeper into the different topics. So I think it was really good if you want to have like a just a general background knowledge about immunology, immune system, etc. Even if you don't need it for anything, like it's just fun to know. And I think it's written in a good way, like everybody can understand it. He uses really good metaphors and stuff to explain certain things and like mechanisms and stuff. So I thought it was really cool. And the pictures are really nice also. I think it gives you a good sense of how big and small things are, which is really cool, I think. Yeah, so if you're interested in the immune system, that's a good book. Another love story, A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. I read this book because one of my favorite booktubers, a Clockwork reader, shout out, recommended this book, and I have to say I'm really disappointed. I like the premise a lot. So the premise is there's this trans woman who basically falls in love with her childhood best friend, but because she pretended to die to like have her new identity, he still thinks she's dead, even though she's just a woman now, and he just doesn't know her like that. So I like the premise, but I don't like the execution, I would say. I think basically like he finds out way too soon, and then also there's like no conflict. Nothing happens. Literally nothing happens. And it's not like a cute love story. Like it was really bland to me. Yeah, I thought I would really like it based on the premise, but then sadly I did not. Yeah, I think maybe also just love stories in general are not like my favorite. If it's just the love story, I need something more around it, which is why I like fantasy with romantic like elements. Next up, funny because I just said I don't like romances, but this one I really like. Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. And this one's so fun, guys. So I read it before, and then I saw that the trailer came out, and I watched the trailer, and I was so obsessed. I like counted down the days until the movie came out on Prime. I watched the movie, then I read the entire book again, and then I watched the movie again. And I love it. It's so fun. It's like a really easy read. It's a story about how the Prince of England falls in love with the president's son, president of America, United States. And it's just really cute and fun and lovely, heartwarming. Hot take, but I think the movie was better. I think the movie took the best elements of the book and made like a great adaptation. I know people are pissed that they put like two characters together into one character in the movie, but I think that was totally fine, honestly, because they're not the main characters, and I think they actually did a great job with casting, and yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. I think it's better than the book, but the book was also really fun if you want like an easy, funny love story. Yeah, definitely go for that one. Okay, next up we have Once Upon a Broken Heart, the series. It's 3 books. I forgot all the names, but the first one is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber again. This one I liked way more than Caraval, even though it's like in the same universe, but it feels different. More fairy tale things happening, I would say. Well, I guess I don't know because I didn't read the other two from Caraval. But I enjoyed the characters a lot. The tension and the chemistry between the two main characters is insane, given the fact that they don't kiss until like the 3rd book, I think. But there's so much tension the entire time, and like it's insane. I love it. I haven't experienced that kind of atmosphere before. No, but like that was a really great love story. I think it's a little overhyped. The story itself is not mind blowing, and also people were saying, "Oh, the cliffhanger in the 2nd book is so insane," but I knew it wasn't. Like I knew it would get easily resolved in the 3rd book, which it did. So it wasn't that crazy. Okay, we have another Taylor Jenkins Reid book coming up. Carrie Soto is back, which is the book that I was talking about earlier. That I think, like that one and Malibu Rising are my 2 favorites of hers because I just love the main character, Carrie, so much. She's so ambitious, and like she's a tennis player. And just when I read this book, I also started playing tennis again. So like it all came together, and I'm also like a really ambitious person. So I loved this character so much. She's not likable. Like she's kind of mean, and yeah, she's not a likable character, but I love her. And she's not like, yeah, nice. But that's what I like about her. The story itself is really exciting, and I was like at the edge of my seat, like waiting what was going to happen. And then the end is so great. I love the ending. Yeah, great book. Okay, coming to Six Crimson Cranes. It's also duology. I think the second one is A Dragon's Promise or something by Elizabeth Lim. This is like a retelling of a fairy tale. I think it's based on like an Asian fairy tale, but I also know one that's like German that's very similar. It's like The Seven Ravens or something. And it's very similar. Um, it was fine. The first one was fine, fun, but nothing mind blowing. The second one, I feel like you can skip. There's nothing. Yeah, it was like totally different from the first one. Very different vibes. The one thing I loved about the first one, I didn't love, but like I thought it was so funny. At some point, she is like cursed, and there's like multiple aspects to the curse, but for some reason, one aspect is that she has like a wooden bowl on her head the entire, like for months, and I don't know why. Like it has no point in the entire story. It's like over her eyes, but like still people can tell it's her later. So why would you do that? And it's like the entire time I wasn't picturing her with this wooden bowl on her head, and people also made fun of it. But that was so weird. Why did she make that decision? I don't know if it's like a part in the fairy tale. It's not in the one that I know. Yeah, but I was laughing so much. I thought it was hilarious. Okay, the next one is from like a German, I don't know what her job is. Comedian? Um, Feminist? Anyways, it's called Pick Me Girls, and she's been criticized many times in the media for her white feminism, and I think you can see it again in this book. I think she has like good intentions, but sometimes she writes things I'm like, no, don't say that. Um, yeah, I think people sometimes take quotes from her books without context, which I don't want to do. Um, and that's why like people don't like her books as much. I think yeah, there are nice aspects in the book, I believe, and like important things, and then like I saw myself, but then also it's like written in a really like pseudo intellectual way and like really long sentences with like a weird grammatical structure. It makes it like more complicated, and you can make it easier and simpler and make it more approachable for everyone. So I don't understand why she did that. And yeah, she has some weird. So, I mean, yeah, there's some interesting arguments she has in there that are just not. I think they're just wrong. So yeah. Okay, another German book by Kerstin Gier. I think people in the U.S. know Ruby Red, maybe. That's the same author, and then this one is called Was bisher verloren war. I don't know the English title. I'm sorry. I'll try to find it. Anyways, if you like her writing style, you will love this book. It's the second one in the series, and I think it's a really fun series. I like the characters. I think she's so funny. I'm laughing every time I read one of her books, so that's why I really enjoy it. So yeah, if you like her books, read this one. Okay, the next one I read is Halloween Party by Agatha Christie, and I read it because I thought it was the movie that came out, The Haunting in Venice, was based on this book. I don't know if this is true because I feel like the book and the movie are very different. I think there's like small elements that they took from the book that are in there, but it's like not a lot. So I don't know if they took like two books and combined them and I just read one of them. Anyways, this is not the best one that I read from Agatha Christie. I liked Murder on the Orient Express. I liked Death on the Nile. This one, no, I didn't like as much. I think it was kind of boring. And also the movie was not great. Murder on the Orient Express was really good. Death on the Nile, but yeah, Haunting in Venice, I didn't like. So let's hope they pick a better one next time. Next one is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. Again, an author that has expressed her support for Israel. So don't give her money. This book I did really like. It's about two friends that develop games together, and it's like about their relationship, their friendship, how it develops, how important they are to each other, and I think it's a really beautiful platonic love story, which I think we need more of. There's also like her writing style is really cool, I think. My friend was saying there's a lot of weird flashbacks and you don't really know when the flashback ends and begins. I don't remember that really, but I'm sure that is true. I really like the chapters NPC and Pioneers. Those are my favorite chapters. I'm not going to say anything more, but I think it's a really sweet story. Next one, another Erin Morgenstern book, The Starless Sea. I got this one because I love the Night Circus, so I'll try the other book that the author wrote. I think there's more, but those two are like the most popular ones. And this one really disappointed me because it doesn't have the magic of the Night Circus. It has better characters, I'll give it that. And like the story, I think they're similar. Like, yeah, I think they're similar from like how good they are. But it doesn't have the magical feeling that I got from reading the first one. So yeah, I would say if you want to read Aaron Morgenstern, read The Night Circus. I think this one is forgettable. The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I saw this many times on TikTok, Talk, BookTube, everywhere. People love it. My friend really recommended it to me, so I decided to pick it up. And I was disappointed. I think I knew coming in that it wasn't going to be for me because it's also like another type of self-help book. So the main story is basically this: the protagonist is trying to commit suicide, and then she instead gets transported into this midnight library, and she tries in that midnight library you can like try on different lives if you had made like a different decision along the way of your life, and then she like tries her different lives and like she sees what's happening, whatever. Yeah, and I thought I see what he was trying to do here, and I think the main message is like a good one, obviously, but I it just didn't speak to me. I thought some of her lives that she did like had instead were kind of unrealistic, and it's giving self-help book. I'm sorry. I know like maybe I know other people that have like that struggle with depression think this book is like really helpful. So maybe I think I'm just not the target audience, which is okay. Um, yeah, I don't like these type of self help books. Damn, this is like a tongue twister, man. I can't. Anyways, not for me. Okay, next one, Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano. Hope that's how you pronounce it. So this one was on the top 100 books you should read in 2023 of the New York Times, I think. I don't really know why it's on there, if I'm being honest. The first 3 quarters of the book, I was confused. I was like, okay, this is kind of boring. Like nothing is happening really. I like the last quarter because it's kind of like a Little Women story because it's 4 sisters and it's about their lives and how they live their lives, how they're connected throughout their lives. And I think the ending was really, really beautiful. I cried. I have 2 sisters. Like, I thought it was very heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time. Like, it was really beautiful. But there was just nothing happening for the first 3 quarters. So, yeah, I was kind of bored. I think the payoff is good enough, but maybe still the beginning is too long. Yeah, so I think it's worth it. Just not doesn't deserve to be on the top 100 books in my opinion. Next up we have Legend Born by Tracy Dion. I actually met Tracy Dion in real life. That was really cool at the Festival of Books in LA in 2022, I believe. And she signed my book and everything. So I was like, hey, I actually have to read it now. And I really enjoyed it. I think it's a great YA story, and it's like a good alternative to a lot of YA stories that are out there. I love the story. I think it's a great YA book, and I think we should have more YA books like this. The perspective from like a black teenage girl in this like predominantly white space, and then we have like this magic system that's happening and they feel like so entitled to it, and then there's this black girl that all of a sudden is like basically the chosen one, and they're all like, oh, didn't expect that. So I think it's really a great commentary on YA books that we have had like in the past, especially when I was growing up. So I think it's good that we now have this YA book for teenagers to read. I think it's really nice. Next up, we have the Cruel Prince series by Holly Black. I never read this as a teenager for some reason. Well, I know why. I read a review of another book, but they have like similar names, and I thought the Cruel Prince, like the review that I read was for Cruel Prince, and then like it was really bad, so I didn't read it. And then here I am. Now I read it finally, probably 10 years later. But I'm really glad that I did. It's a lot more political than I thought, which I really enjoyed. I think Jude is a really cool main character who's like ruthless, cutthroat, lover, like great main character. And I really like the love-hate relationship between her and Carden. I think it's like one of the best ones I've seen in YA, I would say. Yeah, I think that it's like really cool. So I'm glad I finally read it. Okay, the next one is a comic book. It's the new Asterix comic, which is the White Iris, I think is probably the translation. I love the Asterix comics. I think they're really fun. This one's just like the old ones, I would say. I mean, of course, it has like commentary on current world problems, which I think I really enjoy. Like, they have one section about like artists, and it was so funny, like trying to figure out which artist they meet. Like, I love it. Yeah, I always try to read the new Asterix that come out. I think probably like every year now they come out with one new one, and I always enjoy them. Now we have the final book of the year 2023, and that's The Chalice of the Gods by Rick Riordan. Of course, Percy Jackson. I love Percy Jackson as a kid, and I'm glad that he's continuing the series kind of years later, but like in a low stakes way, you know? So here it's about him. He's in high school now. Well, still, I guess. But like he needs letters of recommendations for the university. So he needs to do like different tasks for different gods to get a letter of recommendation each. And yeah, it's, what can I say? Like, it's a typical Percy Jackson book. It's really funny, really action packed, and I love it. Great book. Okay, now I did this entire process twice, once in German, once in English. I'm a little tired, but it was fun to do. I'm gonna, I don't know if, I'm definitely not gonna do it in both languages going forward, I would say. I'm gonna have to decide at some point what language I want to do. I thought in the beginning I wanted to do German, but now it feels like English was easier or something. Because a lot of the things that I like, I read all my books in English, and well, most of them the ones that are written by English authors. Um, so I'll see what I will do. Yeah, let me know if you have any recommendations or if you got anything out of this video. That would be very nice. And yeah, follow me on my Instagram. It's catastrophic bookworm. I'm gonna link it somewhere. I'll see what types of videos I'm gonna do. I mean, it's definitely gonna be about books. Maybe I'll tell you more in detail the books that I read this year, or I'll say like what books I want to read or like what I'm excited for. I can also do like a read with me vlog kind of thing. I don't know if I can actually. We'll see. And maybe I'll take you to the Festival of Books also because I love it. It's so fun. And you meet so many authors. It's really cool. Okay, see ya.